G'day everyone, it's a big weekend for the CrowCast with our big list management committee meeting going on this evening at 7:30, obviously during the bye round, so tons to talk about. We're looking for lots of engagement. Let's not waste another second. G'day everyone and welcome to a massive edition of the CrowCast. The weekend wrap this week, straying away from our usual format with the bye, and we're going straight into a very important list management committee meeting. Don't forget to join us on Discord or chat with us on YouTube and Facebook. Certainly you can listen to the audio feed, but there's tons of stuff going on the video, so if you can get around a video feed, get around it. Nikki and Macca, how the heck are you?
Oh, looking forward to it, Fiend, to find out what you guys are thinking and expressing what I'm thinking, see whether they match or not.
Yeah, Nick, how you going?
I'm going very well because my women's team, I haven't been playing this year, but they have been playing excellent. They're actually straight through to the grand final, so go Flinders Uni.
Fantastic. The Crabs. Go the Crabs.
They're the Stingrays.
No, the women's team's got to be called the Crabs as well, surely.
No, we're the Stingrays.
Come on.
The boys are the Crabs.
Oh, that's just a massive cop-out. That's a massive cop-out. You got to embrace the Flinders Uni Crabs, surely. If you're a Flinders Uni woman playing football, you're a crab, and that's the end of it.
No.
Look, g'day to everyone who's joined us on Discord. PJ Crows, Anzac Paul, Razor Ray, NATO, Matty H. Get around us on Discord. It's going to be a fascinating chat. We're looking for lots of input from everybody, not only on Discord but also on Facebook and YouTube. So chuck a comment in Facebook and YouTube and we'll get around it. I haven't even seen the footy this weekend. I've had a bye week as well with regards to the results. Has anything been going on before we get into this?
No, nothing much.
Right.
bloody Bulldogs. I'll say that. They were looking good in the first quarter and then they went to shit.
They went. Yeah, well, you know that Geelong are my flag favourites at the moment.
I know, bastards.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, I want to say, did see half of the Gold Coast North Melbourne game. Are we as bad as North Melbourne? Oh, well, we were because it was horrible to watch. Horrible. Had to turn it off.
Yeah, no, I don't know. G'day to Vardy in the chat as well. All right. Now, so the format of this evening's meeting, everyone, as I call it to order, is that and there's going to be a lot of that. I promise everyone who's listening to this or watching this on Facebook and YouTube, it can sometimes get a bit of a dog's breakfast on the weekend wrap, but I'm going to be holding a firm hand on the gavel, Macca and Nikki, because we need to keep this under a 3-part mini-series.
Now, Nikki, don't burst out laughing. Come on.
We don't.
No, I was going to say, don't make me post the West Wing clip with the gavel.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Now, look, what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at our current list. We're going to talk about individuals. We're going to try and make a bit of an assessment about whether they're best 22, whether they need to stay on the list or whether we can delist or whether there's some trade value there. Then we're going to get on to look at our draft position as it stands at the moment and look at some possible trades and then check out some draft prospects that we might be looking at. And hopefully by the end of it all, Macca and Nikki, we might have some plan formulated that we can email to JR and Shishido and Fags on the list management committee and say, hey boys, just save you a bit of time. We've already done all the work. Just make the deals happen. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, because it's not like they've been planning for this for years.
No, they probably haven't.
Well, I hate
go by a couple of years back. Yeah,
I hate to say this, but there are times when perhaps that might be evident. G'day to 1990 Crow on Twitch. Great to see people joining us on Twitch as well. We've got a few joining us on Twitch, which is great. Right, now, first up, let's have a look at our current list, shall we? Now, Macca and Nikki, I hope that you've got a screen with what I've got up here. And if you haven't...
I haven't got a screen on. As I said, I don't dare put anything up. Is it Facebook driven or not?
Put it on YouTube, Mac. Anyway,
YouTube?
Yeah,
YouTube and mute it.
Yeah, but there's a mute. It'll mute me talking to you.
No. Just mute the video on YouTube. Anyway, look. So I've put up on the screen our current list. And what I thought we'd just talk about first of all, before we get too far into it, is the situation with regards to the list size reduction, which seems to be on the cards. What's your general thoughts? I think they'll go down to... we're currently at... what are we on? We're at 40 plus rookies at the moment.
Yeah, you can have a minimum of 38 plus six rookies, or I think you can go up to 40 players and 4 rookies. I think.
Yeah, and
I'm not sure whether that's 100% right, but that's what I think it is.
Yeah. So
it's definitely 44 in totality.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I don't know about you, Mac and Nick, but I'm thinking they're going to go down to a 38 size list. What do you think? Anyone? Hello? What the hell's going on with you people? Macca, Nikki, anyone? I don't know what the hell's happened to these people, but they've gone. Mac, are you there? I'm thinking that the people that are listening to us can hear us. Hey, Macca, I can hear you. Macca, I can hear you. Nikki, I can't hear you.
Well, this is a good start.
Are you back, Nikki?
Phoenix, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Yes, I can hear you. It's like we're at a Zoom meeting. Can you hear me yet?
What the hell was going on with that?
I don't know. You went completely silent.
Not to the people on the cast, but you guys did.
Yeah, but to us. That's very mean, Firehorse. This CrowCast actually run by the Crows.
No, it's actually run by me, Valus, and to be honest with you, what Nikki and Macca say doesn't matter a shit. Now, Macca, I don't know what's going on with Macca, but I hope I'm going to kick him out, and hopefully he just rejoins and.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just disappeared.
You and Nikki both disappeared, but I was still going, so the important people were still here. Anyway.
All right, do you have any arguments or not?
No, not with myself, mate. Anyway, let's get on with it. So I thought Mac and Nick would start off just having a look at the rookies. Well, put it this way. I think we're going to go down to 38. What do you think, Mac?
I reckon it's 44 at the moment. I think we'll only go down 4 in total.
Yeah, 38 plus 4, I reckon.
Well, they're actually talking about there won't be rookies next year. Now, whether that's going to be the case or not, I don't know, but that's one of the proposals that's up.
Yep.
And I think there is a bit of... There'll be one of two things that happen, in my opinion, that it'll be 40 in total, or they may even leave it at 44 for this 1 year and then go down next year. So, but I think in our planning, we'd have to say down to 40, which is 4.
Yeah,
4 gone, plus however many trades, how many draft picks we're going to take.
Well, let's work on a list size of 40, shall we? And I'm just on the screen here. I'm just going to select our rookies. and we can talk about them to. And Mac, I don't know whether you. I don't want you to do too much on your bloody screen because God help me, your computer skills. But at the moment, we got Benny Crocker, Ben Keys, Kieran Strawn, and Patrick Wilson as rookies. Now, to kick off the discussion, can we agree that Patrick Wilson and Kieran Strawn aren't going to survive the cut?
Agree.
Definitely agree with Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
Straw, we don't have a backup ruckman otherwise.
Well, that's one of my needs. It was like, I think if the list goes down, you got to say that Strawn possibly has to go, but they've got to be planning for at least one, if not two, ruck backups.
Yeah, that's why I think he may survive.
He can't, Macca. He can't survive. I understand the issue with regards to backup ruck, but he's not the man. He's slow. He lacks awareness. He's not an AFL ruckman, in my opinion.
It was very hard to argue with you, actually, because he was very, very unimpressive when he did get his game.
Right, so this is a democracy. I'm going to throw it open quickly to the people on chat. Strawn in or out? I think Strawn's gone. Strawn rubbish.
Strawn rubbish. Okay, they win. He's gone.
Now, 1990 Crow, we're talking about Strawn, so...
Yeah, we're not up to him yet.
All right, so Strawny's out. Sorry, Kieran. Thanks for playing. And we don't want to be honest with you, we don't want to be disrespectful to players. They're all on an AFL list and we're not, so they're one up on us. But
very good point.
Yeah, Kieran, no good as far as our stuff goes. So that takes us straight down to 42.
Yep.
And we've got a known out in Rory Atkins.
Yep.
So that takes us down to 41. Now, the other one that I've heard a whisper about, and there's been a little bit of media about, is Bryce Gibbs.
Yes, I think we'd have to. I think we'd have to assume there's going to be a negotiation or negotiated settlement between us and Bryce Gibbs, and he won't be on our list next year because it would be. I think it would be humiliating for him to say, "I'm staying," and get paid next year and just sit there doing nothing. I think from his point of view, he's much better off getting a discounted figure right now, and then he can do whatever he wants to do after that.
Look, and we've got to acknowledge the personal turmoil that the Gibbs family has been going through over the last few months. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't blame Bryce for not having his mind on the game. Terrible stuff that they've had to go through. So I think it's best for all parties that he get a negotiated settlement. So, Matt, we're going to talk about a delisting. All right, so that takes us down to 40.
Yep.
Takes us down to 40. Now, all right. So I've broken the group up into midfielders, defenders, and forwards. So let's talk. I want to talk about our midfielders first of all. At the moment in that group, we've got. Let me just refresh this because it hasn't refreshed.
Yep, scroll too far.
No, I haven't scrolled too far. Midfielders, goddammit. So Brad Crouch is the first. Well, let's work from the bottom.
So Wilson.
Yeah. Well, Wilson's already gone. Let's just sort this by game, shall we? Largest, smallest.
I think the contract year is also a valuable one because who's actually got a current contract?
Who's
does
that?
Come into it a bit.
Who's that, Nick?
Is if you sort them by who's got a contract that ends this year, next year, year after.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at it. We've got at the moment we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 restricted and 1 unrestricted free agent. We know one of those free agents in Atkins is going. Let's talk about the unrestricted free agent, which is Rory Sloane. Now, he's contracted until 23, so he's a keep. And I would imagine that he's also best 22.
Yep.
Happy with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. On a
Rory Laird is a restricted free agent. I would have been thinking about whether he could provide some trade value until his turn in the midfield. And I think his turn in the midfield has been excellent since he's been on.
Lairdy has been. He's been quite a bright spark out of senior or more experienced players.
No, he stays.
Yeah. So Lairdy stays and is best 22. Update that. Right. Now, the next restricted free agent is Matty Crouch. And I think we could probably say similar to Crouchy as to Rory Laird, that a couple of weeks ago you would have had Matt Crouch on the trade table, but his form in the last couple of weeks has been more to what we have expected.
You there, Pete?
Yep, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm gathering that you can't hear me again. It's very bizarre. Obviously a problem with the Discord server at the moment. I'm just going to keep talking. So Matty Crouch, what's the consensus on chat? I'm saying that he's a keep. What do people on chat think? Yeah, it looks like a keep from most people, so we're going to keep Matt. And I would make the executive decision that he's best 22. Paul Seedsman's the next one. Now, Paul Seedsman, he's not a free agent and he's contracted until 21. So he's got a year to go on his contract. And I really wish Macca and Nikki would log back in.
No, I'm back here.
Back? I don't know what... I reckon there must be a problem with Discord tonight.
Yeah, because you go silent. I can flick it up on YouTube, which is a bit behind, and hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a... so I think if you do drop out again, Nick, just assume that it'll come
out
back.
and again.
Yeah. Hopefully Macca does the same in a moment. I was just talking about Seeds, Nicky. He's contracted until 21. He's not a free agent.
He's a hard one.
He is a difficult one.
Because he's not playing that well this year. He's had injury problems, but I do like what he brings.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we do need some wing options.
Yeah.
And he's one of the better deliverers into the forward 50.
Yeah. Does he have any trade value? Now, Macca, thanks for coming back. If it looks like Discord's been a bit funny tonight, Mac, so if you do sort of drop out, just log out and back in.
Okay.
We're just talking about Seeds, Mac.
Yep.
Not a free agent, contracted for another year. What are your thoughts?
Definitely keeper. He's. I was reading the notes on him in the paper, and then apparently he had some serious injuries, and he was unfit there in the period when there was no football, so he never had any chance to. So basically, he's been trying to get fit while he's trying to play, which has been reflected in the way he has played, because he's been playing well below his capacity. But no, he's a definite keeper.
Yeah. And he also absolutely hates the cold weather, so he doesn't really want to go back to Melbourne.
All right. Would you say he's best 22?
When he's playing well, yes, he is.
Okay. Yeah, agree. When he's playing well, but we've got to get that consistency from him.
Agreed.
Yeah, definite issue with consistency with Seeds. No doubt about it. Now, the other restricted free agent we've got is Brad, obviously, and let's talk a little bit about Brad, because he's adamant that he wants to stay. He's adamant that his home's in Adelaide and all that sort of stuff. What do you guys think?
Well, you don't have to be Einstein really to work out that it's a volatile situation in the sense that it could be one of two things. Brad would like to stay. We'd like to keep Brad. But if we can get a situation where by Brad taking up his free agency, we get pick 2, well, then he's gone. But conversely, if the offer is only gets us a second rounder, he's staying. So, but I think that in this market, because he is a good footballer, and there's a couple of teams up near the top that would be keen to get him, I think he'll bring a good enough contract to get us the pick 2. So I'd be writing him off as gone.
What do you think, Nick? Well, Nick doesn't think
Bloody hell.
because
I disappeared again.
It's very very frustrating that we're having these trouble with Discord at the moment. It's nothing that I can do about it because it's obviously a Discord server issue. So we'll just keep soldering on. Mac, you still got me? No, it looks like we're out again. So quite frustrating. But anyway, we'll push on. I'm interested to hear what people think in chat about Brad Crouch. I agree with Kempy that Brad seems to think that his value is higher than it is, but I do think that there are a couple of clubs that would like Brad on their list, and the one that really comes to mind for mine is Sydney. I think Sydney, I don't know whether you got me again, Mac, but I think Sydney would be one that would be quite interested in Brad Crouch. Nope, not back yet.
No, I got you
There
though,
you are,
Phoenix. Yes, Sydney do need some help in their midfield. They need a bit of experience. My problem with Brad is that his disposal isn't that great, and Matt plays better without him, and I'd rather keep Matt.
Well, I think you're right, Nick. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Matt plays better without Brad, and I think there's actually a bit of evidence to suggest the opposite as well, that Brad plays better without Matt. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and the issue I also have, and don't tell opposition clubs, is that I think his groin's a shot.
Well, you've just put it out there. Thanks for that.
Well, but that's why we got him. That's why he was so highly rated as a junior. Is he had that absolute burst of speed, but he doesn't have it anymore. It's gone, and he's not. There's no differential between him and many other good midfielders.
And what, have I missed anything, or we just agreed that Brad's going?
Yeah.
No, we're just
and if he gets
talking
his
about...
pick 2, I will drive him to the airport.
All right, Matt, you on board with Brad being traded?
Definitely.
All right. Look, I think so too. But what about if we get band 2 compo for him, or band 3 compo, I should say? I don't think he's going to get a contract big enough to get a pick after our first pick. To be honest.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing: if we don't get that, he's staying.
Yeah, I think
we will match the offer. That and I think I've heard Adam Kelly speak. I've heard Brad speak. Like basically, they're both really saying, and it's up in the air, and they're both happy for him to stay, and they're both happy for him to go.
Yeah,
and so it really comes back to, do we get pick 2? If we get pick 2, he's gone.
Yep, I think you're right.
I think we will get it.
Would you trade him? Would you trade him for a band 3?
No.
You wouldn't trade him for an end of first round pick?
No.
I would.
No.
I was that would be end of first round. I thought band 3 was second round.
Well, whatever. You've got the pick after the first pick. So is that band 1? Is it? And then
that's a sound going.
You're. I don't think Macca can realise that when his sound cuts out, we can still hear him.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, shit. That's funny. Yeah, so, all right, we've decided that Brad's on the trade table. When the others... while we're talking about our midfielders. The next one on the list is Jordan Gallucci. And I'm interested to hear what people think on chat. There's been whispers of the Gooch not being happy in Adelaide and wanting to go back home. Obviously, he's got his Achilles to deal with, and that's going to be an issue for him potentially. Sometimes it's a bit hard to get back from an Achilles injury. But Nikki's saying in chat that Gooch is gone. I'll be interested when she comes back on board to find out why Gooch is gone. But at this stage, I really like Jordan Gallucci. I think he's suffered from mismanagement. Nick, you got me?
I do now. It did not want to connect.
Oh, unbelievable. And just a heads up, and we'll have to tell Macca when he comes back online, that when you guys drop out and can't hear me, I can still hear you and everyone else can too. Macca?
Oh, great. That Macca's swearing. Yeah, because I can still hear him.
Macca's like, Macca, when we drop out, mate, we can still hear you, so just be a little careful what you say.
Okay, that come through before.
Yeah. So look, anyway, I'm talking about the Gooch, and I want to keep this ticking over, so we're just going to have to put up with these disconnects. Because it's obviously a Discord issue. I like Gallucci. I think he suffered from a bad development at the Crows through the Pike times, and then obviously his injury came at the worst possible time for him. But I think he might have a little bit of value at trade.
I think he's definitely got value at trade, and I would have liked to keep him, as others in the chat have pointed out, with the list size shrinking, and we're pretty sure his dad and the rest of his family is very keen to get him back to Melbourne.
Right.
Well, but if you trade him now, you're going to get peanuts for him.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
I don't think you will.
There's not a lot of exposed form, Nick.
There isn't, but what exposed form there is...
Nicky, what do you think you're going to get?
He's got... well, he's not going to get us nothing.
No, but it's not interesting. It's a question that you've got to weigh up is the potential value of Gallucci if we get him right versus what we will get if we sell him in his trade him off in his current condition. If we trade him off in his current condition, we'd be lucky to get a third rounder for him.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, he's one with speed that we desperately need in our midfield. But he's one of those tweeners. He's too small. As much as I really like him as a player and the attributes, and he does play taller than what he is, but the way the AFL's going, he's too short.
Look, I think his contract status probably tips the coin in the favour of a trade, to be honest with you. I think the fact that he's out of contract at the end of this year is probably the nail in the coffin for him. I'd like him to stay. I think he's got some talent and ability. But I think it just wasn't the right fit, the right time for Jordan, and I think he might have better value at another club.
Well, my vote would be to keep him, but so we disagree. But then we'd only get a third rounder for him, and I can't see the value in that. So I just think I'd rather keep him and see if he does, and then a third round in this particular draft is not going to be a great one. So we're not gambling with a lot keeping him.
Yeah, well, it's list size, Mac, that is the problem, and of the midfielders, we've already got Atkins and Crouch listed as out of our non-contracted midfielders. Gallucci is the other non-contracted midfielder, and I think that tips the scales in the favour of a trade. So that's where we're going to go. Look, McHenry, O'Connor and Schonberg. Look, I don't think either of those are going anywhere at this stage. I think McHenry is the one on thin ice. O'Connor we've seen nothing of. And Schonberg, obviously, we've seen some very promising signs. But given their contract status, all contracted to 2021, I think those three lads, McHenry, O'Connor and Schonberg, stay on the list. Nick, what do you reckon? Not there, Nick? Mac, you're not there either? All right, we'll keep soldiering on. So, look, I think that's covered it. So that leaves us with basically, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mids. And look, to be honest with you, our midfield cupboard is very bare. If we just talk about those we're going to keep, that leaves us on our list with a midfield group of Matt Crouch and Rory Laird as our two senior midfielders, and there's a couple of defenders like Brodie Smith, etc., that fit in on that as well. Seedsman and Sloan, obviously the other two, first 22, but I can see Sloaney transitioning out of the midfield as he moves towards the end of his career, and Seedsman is a little bit up in the air. Mac, Nick, have I got either of you back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yes.
Oh, Matt,
Yes,
yeah.
we're back.
Yep. So I've made some
Did you
executive.
keep Paholke?
I made some executive. We haven't talked about Paholke yet because I've listed him at this stage as a forward. So yeah,
My God.
Yeah. So we're left with a midfield list of Matt Crouch, Rory Laird, Ned McHenry, Ronan O'Connor, Harry Schonberg, Paul Seedsman, and Rory Sloan. It's a bit skinny, Nick.
It is, but we really need to rebuild that midfield.
We do.
That's our major problem.
And that's where, there's a couple of cheap, relatively cheap trades that we could bring in that particular area of the ground.
Yep. Look, the only other issue that I've got in terms of our midfield is that a lot of those are coming out of contract in 21, and a couple of them are free agents, Matt Crouch and Rory Laird. So we're going to have some interesting times contract-wise. But let's move on to our defenders, shall we? Because these Discord issues are very disappointing. But we need to crack on regardless. So hopefully, hold on here. Hopefully we can anyway, our defenders. Nick, have I got you?
Yes, you do.
All right, so
Yep.
we've got who have we got coming out of contract in 2020? We've got Hardigan, DMAC, and the young lad Ace Taylor coming out of contract in 2020. What do we think about those three?
Well,
I'd love to swear, but I can't.
Yeah, it's very disappointing, this Discord issue. Very untimely, in fact. But we're just going to have to continue. We've got Hardigan. I'll have to engage with the chat here while these two come back. Hardigan is the one, I think, that might have some value. What do people think on chat? I don't think he's D-list Valus. I think he's got enough to offer another club. Most definitely got enough to offer another club. Let's get some consensus on Hardigan. Vardy reckons keep him. Who else have we got there? Valus wants him out. Patrick Lyons says keep him. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, PJ, that Port might be interested in Hardigan. I think they've suffered from kicking out Dougal Howard. So, where do you sit, Macca and Nick, with regards to Hardigan?
keep him. We need decent depth in the back line, and he proved he could play very nicely, actually, up against Hawkins the other day. And Talia's slowly dropping off that cliff.
Yeah, Talia is the one that worries me a little bit. Kyle Hardigan's a fairly fit sort of a bloke. So
He's actually a lot quicker than people expect, which is why he can play quite well against some of those bigger players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a Hardigan knocker over the years, but I think that we really are forced to keep him for the reason you just said, that Talia is starting to slow down. And also, Hardigan has got some pace, and his last game actually showed that he can actually play well when he's got a bit of responsibility. So, for me, he's a keeper.
My thoughts on Kyle have always been that he's an excellent defender, but you just don't want him being a ball distributor.
Correct.
I think if you want a lockdown defender, I think Hardigan's very good. He may have some trade value, but he is a restricted free agent, but there's been no talk at this stage about whether he wants to explore his opportunities, and he's out of contract at the end of this season. So, it's a bit of a watch this space. Now, D-Mac is an interesting one. Unrestricted free agent, uncontracted at the end of this year. He's 32 years of age. He keeps getting selected, and I've got to say, he hasn't had too bad a season since he's been back in it.
Yeah, ironically, he's had a very good, probably one of his best. I think he's just like good vintage wine fiend.
Well, I guess the issue is, does he have a role as a running halfback flanker? He's not a lockdown defender. I don't think he's got a role on the wing. He definitely is a running halfback flanker. Given the amount of defenders that we have on our list at the moment, do we have space for D-Mac? Do we have the cap space to warrant another 400,000 for another couple of years? Do we keep him safe, or is it time to cut him loose? He's 32 years of age.
Yeah, given what you've just been saying about cap space and defence, etc., my thoughts were you keep either Hardigan or McKay, but not both. And we decided on Hardigan, so McKay goes.
Well, let's look at it this way. In terms of running halfbacks, you got David McKay, you've got Wayne Miller, you've got Lockie Scholl, you've got Will Hamill.
Will Hamill. Yeah.
Yep. You got Tom Duday, you've got Luke Brown,
McPherson.
You've got Andrew McPherson. There's a lot of players in that, and with the reduction in cap size, list sizes, and with the fact that D-Mac is out of contract, and with the fact that we've got a lot of his type, I'm thinking that D-Mac is a trade/D list.
Dead duck.
Yeah, which is a real pity, because he is actually playing very well. But as I hate agreeing with Lahus, but he actually said if you had to keep between Hardigan and D-Mac, you'd keep Hardigan, and that's where we have the lapse. You're spot on, Fame. We've got so many of the running halfbacks, and those kids need to be playing.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
I don't think D-Mac's got any trade value. I don't think he'd actually want to continue at another club, so I'm calling it a D list simply because I think he'll retire.
He might make a very nice captain in the SNFL.
Well, it'll be with another club. Now, Ace Taylor, I've got no idea about this kid. He's a defender from the Northern Knights. He's 19 years of age. He hasn't played a game. I haven't seen him in the twos.
No, because he did his hamstring.
Yeah.
And he's out for the season. He was that last minute rookie after that we got later on. So he was just the one to give a little depth, top up the list, etc.
Yeah.
And was mostly going to play SNFL. So I think he'll be heading back.
Look, he's
to
not
Victoria.
a bad size, 190, but I think he's I'm going to have him as a D list simply because I don't think there's room.
He's gone.
Yeah. All right. So now, as for the rest of the defenders, let's go through them quickly. Luke Brown.
Okay.
He's 2023. Hasn't had the
And
best season.
he's only 27.
He's 20. Well, nearly 28. But I think he deserves to go around again.
I think he's playing injured this year.
Possibly.
I agree with you, Nicky.
Geordie Butts, he's contracted for another year.
For me,
and
Geordie
looks
Butts
good.
goes in the back pocket and he takes over from the one that you really idolise, Fiend.
Who's that?
The slow one.
Oh, Jake Kelly.
God. Gone again.
Jake Kelly. Nick, you there? No, I'll just keep prattling on. Tommy Dede is an obvious keep. Lockie Gallant is an obvious keep. Will Hamill is an obvious keep. Jake Kelly, have I got you guys back? No, we'll leave Jake Kelly until Nick and Macca have really come back. Fisher Maxey obviously is a keep. Andrew McPherson has a really good year, is a keep. Wayne Miller is contracted until the end of time, so he's a keep. Lockie Scholl, a keep. Brodie Smith, I'm going to hang on to for a second. Daniel Talia is a keep, and Josh Worrell is a keep. Now, have I got you two buggers back? No? All right. Well, I want to talk about Jake Kelly. So I'll be talking to people in the chat at the moment. Now, I've got Patrick on YouTube saying, Kelly, trade if we can get. As Oz Turan also trade Kelly. There's a massive amount of support for trading Jake Kelly. Have I got any of you two back? No. So we're gonna. Who's that? That's come back. Is that you,
It's
Mac?
me back. Yeah.
Right. So. And
Third
both
time
of
lucky.
you. Oh, it's frustrating because I can't actually do anything about this.
I know, it's Discord.
Discord's just been a pain in the ass.
Just reading in the comments there about trading Kelly, that's where I was getting to. Butts to take over Kelly's role, and Kelly to be traded for whatever we can get for him.
Well, the two of you, I've basically made executive decisions to keep everyone, except
gone again.
DMAC and keep everyone except DMAC and Taylor, but the two in question are Jake Kelly and Brodie Smith. Have I got you back? Macca, have I got you back? I can hear you, mate. Oh, this is terribly frustrating. I think the consensus is that we trade Jake Kelly. I want to talk to people about Brodie Smith. Now, the consensus about Brodie Smith is that we should keep him, but I'm going to put a case forward about Brodie Smith being traded. Have I got either of you two back yet? No. Oh, this is terribly frustrating. So, Mick Noble asked what would we get for Kelly. I don't think we'd get a huge amount. I think we'd probably get a late second rounder. Macca, is that you back? No. Brodie Smith. Now, Brodie Smith, I was a few years ago when I felt like we had a soft underbelly in terms of our list. I really thought that Brodie Smith was one that we might get some trade value for. Now, I think Brodie's had a pretty good year, but he does have some flaws, and one of them is his disposal efficiency. Nick, is that you? You're back?
Yes, the fifth time restarting.
Now, Nick, I'm just going to ask you, are you actually restarting Discord or just disconnecting and reconnecting voice?
No, I'm restarting Discord.
Yeah, okay. Brodie Smith, Nick. Brodie Smith, I've just been saying that I feel like Brodie has some flaws. One of them is his disposal efficiency. The other is his he tends to go missing a little bit on big occasions, and I think he's got a lot to offer a team. I just wonder whether we take the money and run with Brodie Smith.
No, he's a key. Otherwise, we just got to be a skeleton team of just young players. You've got to have some depth in you.
Do you think
it's a hard one because no player is perfect, and they've always got deficiencies. I do agree. He does seem to have gone a little bit missing a bit this year. and he doesn't like being tagged.
Well, I think the experiment of Smith in the midfield is a failure. I don't think he's a midfielder.
Didn't work at all.
I think he's a running halfback flanker.
And we've got a lot of them.
And he's 28 years of age, Macca. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's contracted until 2021. I'm still saying he's a trade.
If we get the right price for him.
Well, I'll bet you money we don't trade him. He'll be here next year.
I'm not saying whether we will or not. I'm just saying whether we should or not.
Yeah, no, I'd keep him. We have to because we're going to have so many young lads in the team. There has to be a little bit of a framework of stability of players around them that are senior and can just help the lads come along. Otherwise, we will really get kicked off the park.
All right, well, we're going to have him as a keep, and that leaves us with a...
he's a keep with a question mark.
Keep with an asterisk.
Not even a question mark for me, no.
All right. So in terms of our defenders, then that leaves us with Luke Brown, Jordan Butts, Tom Diday, Lockie Gallant, Will Hamill, Kyle Hardigan, Fisher Mackesy, Andrew McPherson, Wayne Miller, Lockie Scholl, Brodie Smith, Daniel Talia, Josh Worrell. I don't actually think that's a bad mix in terms of experience and youth.
No, I think that as long as we can have a decent midfield up ahead of it that prevents the ball just flooding back there all the time. Yeah. I think, the defence hasn't been too bad all year. It's just been the fact they've been flooded with attacks.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, I don't think defence is our problem. We've obviously got a ton of youngsters in that area of the ground. And I think that's not a bad outcome from our defenders. Let's talk about our forwards, because I think this is a very difficult issue or difficult area of the ground for Adelaide. Have I got you guys? Any of you guys? Nope, they're gone again. So in terms of our rookies, Ben Crocker and Ben Keys. Ben Keys, obviously, I think is a keep. I don't know why he's in as a forward. I got this list off bloody Footy Wire, and obviously they had him listed as a forward, but he's a definite keeper. I think with the list reduction, I was a bit of a fan of Benny Crocker at the beginning of the season. I think he showed a little bit. But he hasn't showed anything, and I think if it comes down to a choice between Ben Crocker and Ben Davis, I think Ben Crocker's the one to go. So I'm having him as a D-list. Have I got any of you guys back?
Yes, you do.
Any argument with Benny Crocker? I know we were both a little bit happy with him at the beginning of the year, but he's been disappointing, Nick.
He has, unfortunately, and we do know that the situation he's in with his family, that's a bloody hard situation to be in.
Yep. Mac is still not here, so we'll just keep going.
No, I'm back.
Oh, you're back now. So we're delisting Benny Crocker, Mac.
Yep. Go on.
Benny Davis is an interesting one. He's still got a year to run on his contract, so I'm just saying, in view of Benny Crocker going, we keep Ben Davis on for another year.
We need to play Ben Davis. He's got some tricks that needs to be exposed at AFL level.
I agree.
Well, we got no choice. He's on the list anyhow. So he's contracted.
Yeah.
Oh, there's rumours he's interested in leaving, but I hope that's all they are. Because we did see from the start of the year there was a big push by the AFC media. Was they put Davis front and centre, pretty much on everything over summer. And Nix was talking him up a lot.
Yeah, and I think what surprised them was Shane McAdam coming on.
100%. You're right, PFP. 100%.
And I think that they don't think that there's room for both. I think that they think that they're interchangeable. I don't necessarily agree.
Davis plays Lynch's role, not McAdam's role.
Yeah, I think Davis could play up the ground a little bit. And I think McAdam is more a bit of a goal sneak, a bit of a third Third tall. Now, Darcy Fogg, obviously he's a keeper, but God, we need to see something.
He needs to pull his finger out.
Well, he needs to pull his finger out, but we need to give him the keys to the forward line, Nick.
Yeah, that as
100%
well.
right. I think,
But he needs to pull his finger out.
Yeah, but
Go,
Nicky,
mate.
I think just on a structure basis, I think that Walker doesn't play next year. I think that Walker, I know he's not got a contract, but I think I'll make him captain of the twos, and a backup when we've got injury, and Fogg's the man.
Yep, I agree with that. Billy Frampton, why did we sign him to a 3-year deal?
No idea.
And then not playing, it's a good deal, isn't it?
Bloody hell.
He's doing nicely.
Well, the interesting issue about Frampton is the form of Himmelberg. And when you look at their contract status, Himmelberg comes out of contract at the end of this season. Frampton's still got 2 years to run. Now, Himmelberg has offered something in the last couple of games, but I'm still not sold about Elliott. And Frampton, I don't think is a long-term prospect. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in terms of draft prospects, but at the moment, I don't think either of them represent an opportunity, represent an answer in the forward line.
Go on again.
So I'm wondering whether we need to have a look at whether we can get something for Elliott Himmelberg. And I'm talking to myself again, which is bloody frustrating. Surf Oz in the chat saying that Berg give another year. Well, the issue with Berg, Surf Oz, is that he's out of contract at the end of the season. We've given Billy Frampton. I think at the beginning of this season we thought that Frampton was going to overtake Himmelberg. Would you guys say that was true? No, still haven't got him. So I'm actually going to put Himmelberg up for a trade if I'm Adelaide. Nikki, can you hear me? No, I'm actually putting Himmelberg up for a trade simply because of the fact that he's out of contract, and we've got Frampton, who I don't think either of them are the difference. But I think just the contract situation with Frampton being another 2 years on the list, I think he stays. We'll just leave Jones for a moment. Tommy Lynch. I want to have a talk about Tommy Lynch. Have I got you guys back?
Yeah, well, I'm back.
Yeah. Macca, I'm just interested. I'm going to put Elliott Himmelberg up for a trade simply because of the contract situation. I don't think either him or Frampton are the answer at centre-half forward. But given we got Frampton for another 2 and Himmelberg's out of contract at the end of this season, I'm putting him up for a trade. What do you think? Well,
I thought Eddie Himmelberg actually showed something towards the end of the season, and I'd be inclined to give him another year.
Well, but how can you give him another year? You've got to give him a contract. He's not going to take a 1-year contract, right?
Well, the point
you've either got to give him 2 or you've got to trade him.
Well, I'll probably give him the 2 because of the fact that it's either that or play Frampton in that position. But because even if we say get Riley Tilthorpe, he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to play from day one, is he?
Well, I don't. I'm not a Tilthorpe fan, and we'll get to that in a minute. And we've just about got through this list situation. Then we can start talking about where we're at in terms of prospects. But there's Logan McDonald is the one that I think is the one that we need to target. But and because I think that we've got 2 key position players in the frame for that first pick, or maybe Brad's pick if that's how it goes, I don't think it's worth giving Himmelberg more time.
Well, I don't know, Spain. I just think that because I'm already saying I would be playing Taylor Walker next year.
No, that's true.
And I'll be saying to Taylor Walker that you will also be a forward. You've got to get your money. You're going to get your $700,000, but you got to earn it. You're going to be, if you like, a forward type coach that also captains the Bees and just fills in occasionally if we've got players missing. And because of that reason, I think we've got to keep Himmelberg as well.
Nick?
You know I like Himmelberg.
Yeah, you're his mum.
You're his mother.
And I think it's just ridiculous, the fact that Frampton... Yeah, that Frampton's got those three.
I don't think Frampton gets a third club if we put him
No.
on the trade table. I think we're stuck with him. And that's why...
Yes.
The only reason I'm thinking about Elliot out is because of the contract situation.
Yeah, but I also agree with PJ Crows. He's a big, lanky type of player, and they do take time, and they usually get better with time. So, and he was starting to show something. So for me, he's a keeper.
All right then, let's move on. Riley Knight,
Gone. Needs to go.
out of contract.
Bye, Riley.
Yeah. We don't get anything for trade for him, do we?
No.
I
Not
think he
too
goes
much.
as not with reduced list sizes, I don't think. So he's a D-list.
He's just a plain
He's
delete.
unfortunately too injury prone, and he couldn't break past the 12, 13 disposals a game.
Yeah. Yeah, Kempy in the chat saying Berg can be special. Me and Nick have been on the Berg bandwagon for a while, but I worry about his strength in the contest. But anyway, let's move on. Tommy Lynch, he's contracted for another season. He's an RFA. He's 29 years of age. He doesn't seem to be able to stay on the park at the moment. We've got blokes like Ben Davis and Darcy Fogarty and Shane McAdam, and even you could probably put Miles Baholke in that category as a lead-up forward as well if we don't want to play Miles as a midfielder. What do we think about Lynchy?
He stayed.
Nah, he's hit the hill. He has hit the hill, and he's fading over it fast.
It's got a year to go, Nick. We either keep him
I
on
know.
the list or we trade him.
Nicky, we're paying so many bloody salaries for people
That's
not
right.
playing. We're not going to have another one.
I know
That's right.
that's a bugger. I mean, if you take Walker out, then I'd say keep Lynch.
Yeah.
But we've seen it this year. He's too injury prone now, and it takes him 2 to 3 games back in an AFL side to actually get up to AFL speed after an injury. You know, Can we kind of afford to do that?
Yeah, well, I think we have to carry him for another year. I don't think we can. I think I'm with Macro. We obviously can't afford to pay out another bloody contract. He's got a year to go. I think he might explore his free agency at the end of next season. I think he stays. Shane McAdam obviously stays. Lockie Murphy has a year to go on his contract. I think he stays. Miles Baholke. Talk to me about Miles Baholke.
I would be waving him goodbye. I know I'm the least Paholke fan in this outfit, but
I'll fight you.
but you go back and have a look at his stats, and I know he doesn't get as many opportunities as probably as he should have. But having said that, what he doesn't do bad, and he's got a nice set of hands. He genuinely uses the ball very well. He just doesn't get it very often. Seriously, he doesn't. And he's leg speed. Nicky, shut up. I'm talking. And he hasn't got the appropriate leg speed. And if we're going to carry on with players like Paholke, we will never advance anywhere. We have to say bye-bye to the Paholkes, and we will be drafting a lot of young players this year, and amongst them will be midfielders that we should be putting in there.
Yeah, look, I think contract status is a big factor in this whole conversation.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you, Mac. I think he's got some good qualities. He's got nice hands. He's a good size for a midfielder, and he plays quite tall. But I'm 100% with you that he lacks a bit of leg speed. And I think we've got other players that can play through the midfield that offer the same sorts of things with a little bit more toe, and I think we need to get more speed in our midfield anyway. I think we've got enough small to medium forwards that we don't need Miles in there. And I think what tips it over the line for me is the fact that he's out of contract at the end of the year. So I think he's out.
Yep, gone.
Yep. Tyson Stengel obviously is a keeper. He's still here. The last forward to talk about is Tex Walker. Year to go on his contract. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's obviously 30, but physically looks a little shot. It hasn't really been the same Tex Walker since his knee, but certainly over the last couple of seasons, we've seen the decline of Taylor. He'll tell you he could play until he's 45. Love his passion. Club man. Can be a bit divisive. What do we think?
I think I've already expressed my points in the sense that you can't play him. We can't have a guy who is the senior forward, the guy that's supposed to be looking after all the other forwards and directing traffic and getting the ball, etc. 3 touches in his 200th game. It was a milestone game, and he's got 3 touches.
Yeah.
And that says to me he's cooked, he's finished. And but he's got a year to go contract, and it's worth about $700,000. And if I was him, I'd be saying I'm staying. I'd say, yep, you're staying, but you're going to be captain of the Bees. You're going to be spending most of your time as a forward coach, helping the official forward coach, because you do have a lot of forward skills in your head, and you can pass that on. And that he would only play to be told he'll only play in the A's if we have so many injuries that it's necessary for him to play. But you cannot play him as a regular.
100% agree, Macca. I don't think we can afford to pay out his $700K. Whether we do or not, it doesn't matter. It's going to be on our TPP anyway. But I think if he can swallow his pride, and if he can take on a mentoring role with Darcy Fogarty, and if he can bring himself to take a step backwards and allow blokes like Tom Diday to take over the club in terms of the leadership, then I think he's got a lot of good things to offer. But if he can't do that, he's going to be very divisive, because I think if he can't do that, that's an indication that he's going to go down swing. So I think he stays on the list, but I don't think he's best 22.
Correct.
Yeah, Vardy Magic made a brilliant point earlier in the chat, which was that we would love him to go out with dignity, but often that's a luxury. And unfortunately, with the way we are with the team, I think he's got to either, as you say, play completely in the twos, and I think he will actually make an excellent coach. And I would rather see him transition into that.
I agree with it.
I don't think he's coaching material at all, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll find that out.
I don't think Tex is a teacher. I think Tex is a doer. I think Tex can be divisive. I think Tex is very strong in his opinions, and I don't think that's the trait of a good teacher.
Well, I think he's a leader, and I think the people will listen to him. But the guy at one stage before he did his knee was a star. He was an absolute star, and if he never did his knee, he probably would still be a star. But
absolutely, no one's doubting that for a moment.
No,
but he understands it.
I'm basing this on. I used to go down and watch preseason training a lot when we could actually go down and watch preseason training a lot. And his voice on the track, his instructions on the track were often clearer and better than the coaches were giving to a lot of the younger players. He knew how to do the balance between that constructive criticism and not make it too complicated.
Yeah,
so I've seen what he can do on the track, and that's when we were absolutely flying as a team, which helped as well. But that's where I'm coming from, because I've actually watched him in a football environment.
Yeah.
Doing that type of coaching stuff.
I don't want to dwell too much on this, because we've got a long way to go in this podcast, and we've already been going for over an hour. It seems, touch wood, that we've overcome our Discord issues, thank Christ. But I will disagree with you, because if Tex was a good teacher, our forward line would be functioning a hell of a lot better than what it is right now. That's my view. Anyway, so of the keepers, that leaves us, ladies and gentlemen, with a list of 31.
Yeah, well, that works out nicely, actually.
That's taking 9 in the draft? Or
They're taking
right?
five in the draft. And so
Five
that's
in the
allowing for a four-player reduction and taking five in the draft. I'm pretty sure we will be taking five in the draft.
So Atkins, Crouch, Gallucci, Kelly, and Paholke are on the trade table. Now, are we fairly comfortable that all of those will be traded for picks, or do we think there's a player there that might be in our sights?
I thought Gallucci was a keeper.
No, 2020, he's out of contract, he's gone.
We'd like to keep him, but I don't think it's going to happen, Macca.
It's basically because of the contract status, Mac.
Well, okay, just not going to cause disruption this stage, so move on. Yep.
Yeah. So the question was, are we going to be trading for picks, or is there a player that people feel that we should be targeting? Where we
there's two players we should be targeting.
Yeah.
And that's Jack Graham. He's a South Australian boy.
Yep.
He's playing with Richmond. He's 22 years of age. I looked up what his figures are, and over his career, he averages about 14 possessions and about between 4 and 5 tackles. 2019 was he had a very good year in 2019, where he averaged 17 possessions and he averaged 6 tackles a game. Mm-hmm. And he's 22 years of age, South Australian boy. If we pass Brad Crouch on for pick 2, he would be just the type of bloke to fill in there because he's a hard nut and he plays well. The other players I think we should be targeting because he is out of contract and is Haitley. He's he gets a game with GWS now and again, and he's averaging about 15, 16 positions a game even now. And I think long term he's going to be a good player, and I think he's nice and tall, 190 centimetres. He's a type of player we should be targeting.
Nick?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of whispers around Haitley.
A lot of whispers around Haitley.
Lot of whispers, and they've just hope those whispers are true and GWS don't ask too much. But yeah, he seems to be quite out of favour. When he was drafted, I mean, they did draft him in pick 14, but it was, hang on, they've got an awful lot of depth in that midfield already. And it was like, where was he going to fit in? And I was a bit scared they were going to play him off the half back line, and he just can't get a game in that team because there's too strong a midfield.
Yeah. I really like your Jack Graham suggestion. I've just, for people watching, I've just put Jack's 2019 and 2020 stats up. He averages this year about 1.6 in clearances. Last year he was over 2 in clearances. He's around about the 15 to 16 average disposals, so that could take a bit of a lift. Look, he doesn't mind a tackle. In 2019, he averaged 7 tackles a game, and even this year, with less game time, he's averaging 4 tackles a game. I think he's someone. I agree with you, Mac. I agree with you.
And Richmond would play too hard ball. I reckon we could get him probably for a late third or fourth round. They wouldn't be asking too much.
So, in terms of the people that we're trading at the moment, could you see maybe a Jordan Gallucci situation to Richmond in a swap?
No, he wouldn't live there. They're filled with quick little blokes, and they've got several Indigenous blokes I'd love to have on our side. They're just really good players. No, Gallucci wouldn't get a game there.
Yeah. What about Rory Atkins?
Atkins, I don't know what the club is, but Atkins has already got a deal. He's got a 3-year deal, and that's why he's quite happy to come along and tell us that he's going.
Yeah. So
he's got his deal.
If Atkins has got a deal, a 3-year deal as an RFA, we don't get any compensation for him unless the Brad Crouch situation falls through. But let's say the Brad Crouch situation does fall through and Brad stays on the list. What do you reckon we get in terms of compensation for Atkins?
Well, we get nothing for him actually because he's what do you call it? An unrestricted free
No,
agent.
he's restricted.
Well, you're getting that off of the that list. What's the name of the place?
Woody Y.
Woody Y. Unless he's in the top 25% of payments, then he becomes an. They've changed the rules, so he becomes an unrestricted free agent.
You don't reckon he's in the top 25% of our list in terms of player payments?
Well, the papers always refer to him as an unrestricted free agent.
Well, I'd like to understand what's going on there. But
they hide the rules so they can fudge it for Gold Coast's sake.
I know, or in Geelong.
Yeah, them too.
It's bloody frustrating. We're the only professional sports league in the world that hasn't got clear bloody rules. But anyway, so Jack Graham and assuming we've got 5 blokes there that we can mess around with. Assuming Jack Graham and Jackson Haitley end up at the club, that leaves us with what, 33. So we've got basically 7 to choose, 7 picks. Happy with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Any other players that you wouldn't mind targeting?
Well, I'm sure there are, but it's a question that we don't know them. The club will have identified players that. I mean, it could be like a Jai. What's his name with Jay or Jai Caldwell at.
Caldwell.
The word with Caldwell is that he's staying in Victoria.
Okay.
The Victorian clubs are after him, so I don't think he'll come back. I think Haitley's the one.
Well, yeah.
I don't.
I think.
For me, it'll probably be, I think, who a type of player we should be targeting is a ruck backup that isn't getting an opportunity at another club as a nice backup for Riley. I think a late round pick or something, or offload. They can have Knights, or one of those. Need to do something like that a bit as well.
I agree with you, Nick. And it could be. And the strange part is that a lot of those guys that have been like a scratchy old part-timer that they've got as a backup for a very good ruckman and never get to go, some of them have gone to other clubs and done very well. And I think a very good example of that is Witts. He was at Collingwood, wasn't he? And he never barely saw ground, but he's been to the Gold Coast and he's been the number 1 ruckman since.
Yeah, I don't know whether you'd spend too much time on a second ruckman. I do believe we've got a deficiency there, but if you're going to hang on to Himmelberg, then...
Oh, well, actually, you're right. We've got Himmelberg and Frampton, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. See, Himmelberg could be an interesting one because of the brotherly relationship at GWS.
Yeah, but we've already talked through the fact that we're hanging on to him.
Yeah.
So under those circumstances, we've got the 3 tools. We've got Himmelberg, Frampton and O'Brien. O'Brien goes down, you chuck Himmelberg into the ruck and you play Frampton up forward. I think in a rebuild that's how you go, and we also might have another tool after the draft anyway. So I don't want to spend too much money on a ruck, to be honest with you.
What about 2 metre Peter from the Gold Coast?
Well, I've been a bit of a fan in the past and there's been whispers of a connection between Wright and Adelaide in the past, but he can't get a run at the moment.
No, that's what I'm saying. Well, he'd be pretty frustrated, I would have thought. So, and I don't think you wouldn't be paying a lot for him either. So, a possibility.
It could be a possibility because that's what I meant of that type of that ruck forward.
Would you do a swap between Himmelberg and Peter Wright?
Sorry, between what? Himmelberg and Peter Wright? Yeah. No. Actually, Peter Wright's his form has been atrocious. That's one of the reasons why he's in the team.
I don't know whether we need a bloke who can't get a run in a low team in the AFL. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ben Keys, for example, was different. Brisbane had a very strong midfield, and Keys, for whatever reason, couldn't break into it. But that's in a team with a strong midfield.
Yeah, I'm withdrawing it. I'm withdrawing his name.
Very good.
Yeah.
But that's what I mentioned, that type of player we look at in there's not getting the opportunity because of other players ahead of them.
Yeah, and the boys,
we know other teams have to drop their list down as well. So there's going to be some players normally wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, there's going to be. That's why it will be a reasonably good market to go out and pick players, and most of these players just will be cut. They won't be even bothered to be traded. They'll just be cut.
I agree, and that's where our position in the preseason draft is going to be very interesting.
And as I've said before, I will be absolutely furious if we don't use our pre-season draft position to get somebody for free.
Yeah. Look, and not only that, I think it gives us an opportunity, Macca, to be really shrewd in terms of how we use our picks in the national draft, because some of these blokes are going to be available in pre-season draft. And it could mean that we actually do get a bit creative with our draft. Now, I want to segue what we've decided on our keepers. I think we've gotten through that pretty well in an hour and a quarter.
We did have to go through the whole list.
Hang on.
In about 50 visits.
That's all settled down now, so stop complaining, Macca. It's not my fault. So let's have a look at where we sit in terms of next year's draft. And I'll just increase the size there a little bit. Center that on the screen. So I have to thank Law, who's an Essendon moderator on Big Footy, who's done an excellent job compiling a spreadsheet with the current draft position, and she allowed me quite graciously to use her spreadsheet to give us a bit of a hand as we're talking through this. So you can see up on the screen at the moment what our position is. We've got, as it stands at the moment, and this will change, obviously, particularly GWS's pick, which as of before this weekend was 7. I think it's gone down to 8 now. But we've got 1 and 7. We've got 20 and 30, 43, 49 and 60. Also 74 and 92 and 110. But at the moment, as it sits at the moment, guys, we've got 2 picks inside the top 10. And depending on what happens with Brad Crouch, possibly 3 picks inside the top 10.
Yep, and even if you allow GWS to go up a couple of positions, it'd be three picks inside the top 12. So, yeah.
That's handy.
Yeah. So Adelaide's never been in this position before. And what complicates things, to my mind anyway, and you guys might have a different perspective on this, but to my mind, what complicates things is the lack of visibility on the Victorian kids this year. It's not the greatest year to have 3 picks inside the top 12 when you're talking about the majority of the talent coming from Victoria and some of the high-end talent having long-term injuries. And I'm talking specifically about young Hollands and also Bruin, who both have knee issues. Hollands had an ACL and Bruin's had some complications from a previous injury. So let's have some, before we drill into this, let's have some initial thoughts. Mac, what do you think about all that?
Well, without being very specific with names, and because it's going to be very difficult for us to ascertain that, because at least what you would hope that our draft mob, the recruiting team, have kept their eyes and ears open with the lads that aren't playing, and a line of communication and following, how they're growing and what type of person they are. Are they making efforts to keep fit when they're not actually playing, etc., etc. So it's going to be really. I think that part of it's going to be a little bit of hard work and a lot of guessing. So,
yeah, but we can't afford to guess, Mac, because you take these kids on, you put them on a 2-year deal, and if we get those picks wrong, or if those kids don't come up because of injury or what have you, you set your rebuild back. The other thing too that people forget is that you're going to be picking kids. If you're picking kids from Victoria this year, you're picking kids that by and large have had 12 months out of football.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
No fitness. What fitness are they actually doing?
They're 12 months out of their development. They're 12 months out of their fitness. Now, even if they're playing some other football, and I don't think any of them would be, and
No.
I think, so a lot of these lads are going to be behind the 8 ball. Now, some of them are talented enough that they're going to come up anyway. But, and I've said this a couple of times over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I'm actually not opposed to getting cute with this draft and trading out of it to some degree.
I think our biggest problem is in terms of time we can't afford to, Ben, because we can't stand still. We're at the bottom, and really at the bottom, and we've got to actually make some improvement to our team. And the only way you're going to do that is to add quality youth, and that's where the recruiting team has to really earn their money this year for the very reasons we've just been discussing. The question I would put to you is, what do you do with your first 2 picks? And I'm going to assume that Brad Crouch is gone, and we've got picks 1 and 2. Are we going to take one of those 2? Has to be the best midfielder possible, and maybe the best. Maybe the first 2 have to be the best.
I'll just add to that, Macca. The best tall, quick midfielders.
Yeah, you're right, Nick. You've got to qualify it in the sense that we don't want
another Jones.
Not another Buddy McHenry, where you can't even see if he's on the ground. He's that small.
All right. Well, look, I think I've changed my tune a little bit on this over the last month, and a part of it is because of the makeup of the draft this year. Part of it is because of our list profile, and part of it is about who's actually available. Given our forward line situation at the moment, let's talk about our forward line. We've got Elliot Himmelberg, we've got Billy Frampton, we've got Darcy Fogarty. Let's rule out Tex Walker. Those are our key forwards, right? Now, none of those are setting the world on fire at the moment. None of them. And you can have the best midfield in the world, and the Adelaide Crows have had this in the past, where we've had fantastic midfields, and our forward line have sucked, and it's cost us. Right?
Yep, I did.
You also admit that tools take longer to develop. So I'm heavily leaning towards taking a key position forward with our first pick. Heavily leaning towards it. And one of the main reasons that I'm leaning towards that is because there are 2 quite capable key position forwards available at the top end of the draft this year in Logan McDonald and Riley Tilthorpe. So my first round pick on current form is one of those 2 tools, and I'm leaning towards the Western Australian kid.
Well, not necessarily saying you're wrong either. I would have. My thoughts were that my first 2 picks would be, as Nicky put it, the best tall, quick midfielder around,
and that's all well and good.
And I haven't finished. And a tall, and it'll be one of the 2 that you mentioned. So
yep.
That would be what I do. The first 2. The GWS pick would be again for another midfielder, and after that, well, let's just see what happens to the rest of it.
But that's all well and good, Mac. And yes, that'd be great. But who's available, right? So I want to. I just want to. Just bear with me a minute while I just mess around with some screens here, because I want to talk about who's available and why that influences who I'm targeting and what I'm doing with my picks. Because to my way of thinking, even young Hollands is not a standout midfielder. He's just not.
And that's what we do need. So if we're pretty sure we're going to play shit again next year, we're probably going to have pick 1. Are there younger players that we think are actually going to be there?
Well, not only is young Holland not a standout midfielder, but he's had 12 months out of the game. He's had an ACL. Now he's already been rumoured to slide. Is the case for Holland strong enough to go with a lad who's been 12 months out of football with an ACL, who's played predominantly up forward? Are we going to spend such a high pick on someone like that?
I don't know if it's the answer, because really...
No, I think you do make an excellent point.
Well, I do think that, look, the recruiting people, they're the people that have to know those type of things, Fiend, and from afar, we can't possibly tell.
No, we're doing a podcast on what we think, Mac. So it's not about who can tell. It's about what are we going to do.
Well, I'm very clear in what I would do if we had the first two picks. I would be taking the best tool available, and whoever that is, and I'll be taking the best midfielder, whoever that is. And I can't put a name to them, but that's what I would be doing.
Well, unfortunately, the best midfielder in the draft probably at the moment is Tanner Bruin, in my opinion. Tanner Bruin...
That's one that's tied to Melbourne or something, one of the other clubs?
No. He's had knee issues, and I would say he's one of the better midfielders in the draft. The other one is Will Phillips, but Will Phillips to me looks a little bit vanilla. He's an accumulator. And I don't know whether he actually fits the bill in terms of what we need, Mac.
Well, as I said, don't know enough about the individuals to comment on that, Wayne.
Yeah, but we have to know about the individuals because it's the individuals that make a difference about who we're actually going to pick. And there's no point in saying we need the best available tall and the best available mid if the kids that are actually those people aren't worth the picks that we've got to spend to get them. You know, Will Phillips is an accumulating midfielder. He's very, very good player, but he's only 180 centimetres tall. He's an inside mid. He's not really what we need in terms of pace and skill at the moment, in my opinion. So, and then you've got young Holland. Let me just find him. Elijah Hollands, who's he's an excellent player. Some of the footage on Hollands is fantastic. But the problem with Hollands, he's actually played very little midfield. He's a forward midfielder, and he's coming off an ACL. So you've got Tanner Bruin and Elijah Hollands, who are both coming off knees. You got Will Phillips, who's an accumulator. Why would you take any of those three players with a number one or a number two pick?
Then who would you be taking, Fane?
Well, the only other midfielder that I've had my eye on is a lad from WA who actually plays in the same team as Logan McDonald, and that's Nathan O'Driscoll. But even Nathan O'Driscoll is he's a rangy sort of wingman, I think. He's not certainly not a fast outside midfielder. But of all of the midfielders that I'm seeing at the top end of the draft, he's actually the one that gives me a little bit more in terms of what he might be able to bring. He's 187. Tough, strong-bodied midfielder who's adept at the stoppages. Was a Bonner Major for the WA team and was an All-Australian at under-16s level. He's very good at contested ball winning, and he can play either through the midfield or off half-back. Now, you've got to look at things a little bit more holistically than just, we need this player and that player. And if we're looking at Logan McDonald as the keeper, or Riley Tilthorpe for that matter, and we can have that discussion in a minute. But if we're talking about one of those two lads as our key position forward, and we've also got to have a look at the situation, Mac, with regards to our academy players, and Lockie,
there was about a range, yeah.
young Edwards is the one who seems to have slipped a little bit. But he hasn't declared a desire to tie himself to the Crows as yet, Luke.
I think he will, though, long term. He'd be crazy not to.
Look, I think he will too, and he's also a good size, 187 centimetres, 82, playing for the Bays. We all know his ties. Averaged 19 possessions last year across the Carnival Games. Look, there's one other lad that I'd be keen to look at in terms of, and I don't have any footage of him, but there's two lads actually further down the list that I reckon we could get that actually might be better value than using top end picks on Phillips and Co. One is Caleb. What's his bloody surname? Caleb Poulter from Woodville West Torrens. He's 191 centimetres. He's a midfield defender. He has been tearing it up for Woodville West Torrens Macca. 34 disposal in his first game of the season. 2 goals and 29 touches with 8 marks in a game not that long ago. He's been playing really well for Woodville West Torrens. He'd be available mid-round, in my view, mid-draft, in my view. And in terms of what he brings, known form, in terms of what he brings, to me, I'd rather go with a lad like that than speculate on a Tanner Bruin or a Elijah Hollands or a Will Phillips for what it's going to cost us to speculate on those. There's another lad too that plays for Sturt. I don't think he's on this list, but I'll see if I can find some stuff on him. His name's Tom Powell, and he's also quite good, actually. Let me have a look.
Yeah, Fiend, the advantage of these is that these guys are playing in the SNFL. They're playing against the bigger bodies.
Yeah.
And so I think we are going to see more players from the SANFL and the Waffle actually being drafted than normally would happen, because you're right, that exposed form that they're getting. Yeah, it's just going to be so beneficial. But what do you think though, because I'm also, you mentioned Edwards, but what about Tarek Newchurch, and we've got Borlays as well that are aligned to us in the academy. So are we going to have a look at them?
Well, I think we'd be mad not to have a look at Newchurch, although I think poll reports has just struggled a little bit this year. Luke Borlays is it Luke Borlays? I can't remember, but he's a defender, so one to watch.
Really nice size.
Yeah, and actually had a very good debut in his first league game this week.
Yeah, Tommy Powell averaging 34.5 disposals per game, including 10 clearances, and averaging 6 inside 50s. A mid-draft selection, 180 centimetres, 73s, and inside mid. He gets the ball. He's got good strength. He's very good with his hands. He's got good spatial awareness. A bit like, he reminds me, the way he plays a little bit like Schoenberg. And him and Caleb Poulter are two that I think we could get mid-draft, that are going to give us much better value for picks than the lads that we mentioned at the top end of the draft in Holland and Phillips and Bruin. Of those three, I reckon Tanner Bruin is the one that I probably would lean towards. But I'm not sold on the other two. Yeah,
I'm not qualified enough to argue with you on that, I think. And all I know is that from my point of view, I would be, the one massive deficiency we have is explosive mids, and
Well,
go on.
no, keep talking just for the moment.
Okay.
Because I want to find another lad that is going to be up next year, who I think is going to be an absolute sensation.
And I know that Nikki agrees with that too. That's one of our absolutely burning needs.
Need for speed.
What's his name, Nick? That South Adelaide kid that's going to be up next year. Do you know?
Oh, I'll have to look it up. Hang on.
I'm just looking it up at the moment. If anyone can remember it in the chat, I should have actually had his name all teed up and ready to go, because this kid is going to be an absolute star. But Nick, Mac, anyway, go on.
No, well, I actually haven't got much more to say about it, really, because I think we will use our picks for academy players as well. I think what we'll obviously do, picks 1 and 2, and the GWS. What we'll be trying to do is to get the best players that we can, that have got nothing to do with us, not tied to us, not father, son, whatever. And then that's one of the reasons that we have accumulated a lot of picks this year. Because I think we've got 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and do we have 2 fourths? But the idea is so that we can. It's all a matter of points. If somebody matches a bid for somebody, say for example, we do want to take Luke Edwards, and somebody bids for him, then when we match, we get a 20% discount, and you can do that by accumulating not necessarily a good pick, by accumulating a lot of little ones down the end. So it is possible we could be splitting some of our picks too to get extra points during before the trade. In other words, we'll give them a higher pick, but they give us lower picks, but they've been told there might be 50% more in those lower picks. So, and I think that we will be taking, we possibly take both academy players and Luke Edwards as well.
Yeah. So the player that I was thinking of for South Adelaide is Jason Horn. He's 182,
just found him.
182 centimetre, 75 midfield / forward. But he has been absolutely smashing it. And he will go top 5 next year, in my opinion. If his form line continues, there is no doubt in my mind that he will go top 5. And so, there's every chance that we're going to be at the top end of the draft again next season. But we have to make sure that we get this kid. If ever there was a kid that we have to get, it's this kid, Jason Thorne. And for people watching and looking on YouTube and Facebook at the moment, go and have a look at Jason Thorne highlights. He is just an absolute dead set gun in the making. In fact, I'll bring up so this is Cardine College football. But the speed and awareness, and look at that disposal. Absolutely. This is a kid of 16 years of age, don't forget. He's an absolute gun.
One of the comments in the chat was that he's like a mix between Danger and Gaz. That's pretty handy, Clark.
Yeah. Now this is the reason why I'm not so bullish on this year's draft in terms of top end midfielders, and why I think we need to stockpile for next season, because I think that the top end midfielders in this draft are not proven midfielders. They've got injury problems. I'm sure a lot of them will go on and have really good careers, but they're 12 months behind the 8 ball, which means that we're going to have to spend 12 months getting them up to speed fitness wise. They are not going to be best 22 players. So why would we bother when we can bring in, say, a Jackson Haitley? We can get a couple of South Australian lads in Powell and Poulter. We can get a nice tall in either Riley Tilthorpe or Logan McDonald, and then we can grab our academy kids and maybe Edwards with a father-son. And I don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, but Jason Horn.
Yeah.
Jason Horn is a 200-game AFL player in the making, and there's no way he should go anywhere else except us.
And I'll be happy to have more South Adelaide players on the list.
Yeah. Mac?
Well, but that's not the year that we're going to be involved in, Bane, and that's next year. And the biggest problem is that we're not going to be very good next year, but we may not be number one. We might not be the bottom side. I think North Melbourne are going to have a very good crack at that themselves.
Yeah.
And if we bring in a few players this year, we might actually win 2 or 3 games and blow that spot. But from a club point of view, the club don't want to stay down the bottom forever. I mean, this year's been very convenient to drop right down there because with the COVID situation.
Yep.
But, presuming they would be back to a normal situation next year where people go to the footy and that, they don't want to be down the bottom. They would want to be winning some games so that people could see some hope for the future.
Absolutely.
They might.
Go on, Nick.
I was going to say they might like that, Macca, but we've also got to do some list management changes off field. Otherwise, yes, we will be down the bottom still.
Mac, I want to be logical about this, okay? Because it's like there's a lot of emotion in terms of who clubs draft and trade and, what pick they get and how many points they've got and all the rest of it. I'm looking at it as objectively as I possibly can. Do you think it is worth spending 2 of our potentially 3 first-round picks on a mixture of Victorian kids who are either solid accumulators or coming off long-term injuries that haven't played for 12 months? Or would you rather save those picks, use them differently, and get some mid-draft talent who is proven, who's been playing all season, and who's in good form and probably flying under the radar a bit? What would you rather do?
Okay. It's impossible to answer that question, Fane, because of the fact that there's a lot of assumptions in that, and we don't know what.
Well, what are the assumptions?
Well, the assumptions are we don't know the quality of the individuals that the recruiting team are looking at this year and what their.
No, but I'm asking for your.
Let me finish. No, and then you can't say where we're going to be next year. I mean, you say bank the pick for next year, that's fine. But you're talking about one kid in particular who we'd all love to have, but there's no guarantee that we'll be in that position to get him anyhow.
Yeah, and thanks, Geordie. You're out. Goodbye.
What's that all about?
Oh, just some wanker. Look, I'm not necessarily talking about banking picks. I'm talking about using them differently, Macca. I'm talking about maybe using them to grab another player. If you want to bring Haitley in, if you want to bring Jack Graham in, we're going to have to do some work with picks there. There might be another player that we can attract. But my simple question to you is, you're either looking at players who haven't played for 12 months and who in many respects in many instances are coming off long-term injuries, versus players that aren't going to cost you as much, that have proven visible form, that are probably not as high profile as the Victorian under-18s, who have all the attributes that you're looking for. Tough, fast, tall midfielders. Now, who are you taking?
I repeat, the thing is, out of this draft, and because it is going to be a little bit of a lottery, I agree with that. There are going to be some real bargains come out of it. And it's going to be because these kids have, in 12 months, they go from 17 to 18, or they might be getting close towards 19. And you've got a situation where a lot changes in that time frame, a lot. And it's very difficult. And normally you see them playing, and so you can tell which ones develop. This time it's going to be guessing which ones are going to develop.
I've never known you to sit on the fence as hard as that. You must have a big white picket shoved 2/3 of the way up your backside, Macca. That is the worst thing I've ever heard you say. I want your opinion. I don't want ifs, buts, and maybes. I want your opinion. Do you take kids that haven't played for 12 months who have had long-term injury concerns, or do you take proven, visible talent with cheaper draft picks? What are you doing? Get off the fence.
What do you do with your first if you don't talk about cheaper
Forget
draft?
No. Jeez, Nicky doesn't want to answer this question.
No, he doesn't.
It's a very simple question. No, very simple question, Macca. Do you spend high draft picks on kids that haven't played for 12 months and in many cases have coming off long-term injuries, or do you take proven ability, visible ability with lower draft picks? What do you do?
In our case, I take the people that I think have got the best potential, even if they haven't played last year.
All right. Nick?
You've actually convinced me, Fane. Because to me, list management and what this is a draft, it's never that 1 year to solve your problems. We know
Correct.
1 year is not going to solve our problems. And just like looking at the little vision of Jason Horn, and hopefully we'll be back to a little bit more normal next year. We can't take the risk on those kids who have sat out for 12 months, particularly with how shit our fitness already is.
Nikki, every other club's going to have to do the same.
Yeah, but they're fitter than us. They've actually got decent fitness staff. They can actually probably afford to work with these kids a bit better than what we can.
Well, if what you're saying is correct, then we've got no hope whether we whichever whether we go.
So we are getting pick one next year. We're going to be shit again next year.
Look, the simple fact of the matter is, and I don't want to labour this point, and we're getting to the end of the show, the simple fact of the matter is that this rebuild is going to be a 3 to 5 year project, Mac. Would you agree with that? And Nick,
yes,
would you
I
agree with that? Yeah. And in that time, we have to form the nucleus of a good side and also make sure that we capitalise on our current draft position. So, if I go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show with regards to where we're sitting with our current list, and I'll just sort them. We're very light on in many areas, but there's no point in throwing good after bad, and to my mind, it would be a waste. Here's what I would like to do. Let's finish off the show. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to take Logan McDonald with pick 1.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably take Nathan O'Driscoll with pick 2, even though many would say that that's far too high for Nathan O'Driscoll. If we don't get anything for Brad, if Brad stays, then I think O'Driscoll will actually probably drop to our GWS pick unless GWS turn their season around. Assuming our GWS pick is 6 to 8, I think we might jag O'Driscoll with that. Particularly considering if you consider where other teams are in the pecking order. And I'll just go over to the first round of the draft.
I have to pick up there, though. If you were going to take O'Driscoll with pick 2, when you prepare to take him without that at the GWS pick, he's not a pick 2 then.
Well, why isn't he a pick 2?
But is he but he was going to be our second pick anyhow.
What I'm saying though, Nicky, if he's not good enough to be pick 2, if somebody else has got pick 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they don't want him, and why would we take him at 2?
Because Fremantle will probably take him at 6 if we don't take him.
Well,
all right. And O'Driscoll is another kid who's been playing for Perth all season. He's got good exposed form. He has a lot of the qualities that we need. And I don't get hung up like most people saying, oh, that kid's not worth pick 2. Your picks are just your currency, right? So if you, let me use an analogy, Macca. If you're into classic cars, right, and you go to a car auction and you've got X amount of money, and you see a car there that would finish off your collection beautifully, right, would enhance your collection beautifully, would you overspend to get it? Of course you would.
Yes,
of course you would. So that's no different to how a draft situation is, in my opinion.
A car is an inanimate object, and these are human beings, and they've got to perform.
Oh, no shit, Macca. But the simple fact is that your draft picks are currency. They're dollars in your pocket, right? And there are times where you can get a bargain. You can go to some second-hand car yard and pick up a rust bucket that you can restore, a la Ben Keys. And there are other times where you will overpay because it's a piece that you really need. Now, I'm not one of these people that gets hung up on whether a kid's good enough to be a pick 2 or good enough to be a pick 5 or good enough to be a first rounder. If you want that kid, if you've identified that kid as talent, then all you've got to do is make sure that you get that kid ahead of the other teams that you know want that kid. Right, and to my way of thinking, Fremantle will take O'Driscoll at 6 or wherever they end up. And the thing about Fremantle is that they're carrying a deficit, so they'll probably drop down to 7, which means that our GWS pick is probably going to be above Fremantle's. And I say we take O'Driscoll. But if we have pick 2 and our GWS pick is below Fremantle's, I'd be quite happy to take O'Driscoll with 2.
Okay, well, that's your opinion, Fian, and I don't really have one because I don't know them well enough, and I'll just have to leave it to the recruiting team. And but in terms of what I would like to get a quality player, a tall of the nature that you're talking about, and I'd like to get, as Nicky said, a quick quality tall midfielder, and after that, I'll just leave it to the others to do because I don't know enough about them.
Yeah. PJ Crow's in the chat saying that you take the best mid with pick 1. Well, I don't think you take the best mid with pick 1 if the best mid is worth taking. And I'm not going to bang on about it, but I don't think the 3 highly rated mids in this draft are worth taking with pick 1 simply because they haven't played any footy for 12 months. 2 of them are coming off knees, and we've got a couple of really strong prospects mid-draft this year and an amazing talent in the making next year that we need to focus on. Tall forwards take longer. Take Logan McDonald, even take Riley Tilthorpe, although I'm not as big a fan as some of Riley Tilthorpe. He's got a lot of good qualities and he's been playing. Have you seen much of Tilthorpe, Mac? Playing for West East?
Yeah, I have seen him play. He goes all right, but in the sense that at this stage he's not outstanding because of the fact he's a boy against men, but he goes all right.
What's his ruck work like?
No, he's. I read that he preferred to be a forward rather than a ruck, but he's actually spent more time in the ruck, and he's gone all right in the ruck.
PJ Crows is very adamant that we're going to be bottom next year. I'm with you, Macca. North Melbourne worry me. Their list is horrific. I don't think much of Ray Shaw as a coach.
No good coach. He's no good.
And I reckon North are going to be tanking hard, to be honest with you. I really do. I think North are going to be tanking hard. So I don't think it's necessarily a laydown, and I would hate to lose Horn to an interstate club. So look, I don't know whether we've helped anyone that's been watching or listening to us. We could go on probably for another hour, and we might have another show like this closer to the pointy end when things are a little bit more clear in terms of what the draft is going to look like. At the moment, let's be honest, Macca and Nicky, we don't even know when the draft's going to be and what the format's going to be.
Yep.
Well, that's a very good point. And how many players you're allowed to have.
Well, yeah, so many variables. I think I'll just put our our list up to as we finish off. But I think it was a very good exercise to go through our list and just identify where everything was. I think we're in a very strong position in a very unfortunate year.
Yes, I agree with that.
In terms of the draft, and that's another reason why I lean towards not necessarily getting out of this draft, but maybe looking at the 2020 plus the 2021 draft collectively, if that makes sense, Macca. Maybe that explains a little bit more what my thought process is, that I'm actually looking at the two drafts as one, if you like, in terms of the talent pool. I would hate to be a list manager at the moment. I would hate to be a list manager for the Crows at the moment, or any AFL
absolutely.
team.
If anyone on the 18 side, I'd hate to be a list manager, but that's why I keep saying I'd leave it up to them. That is their job. They've got to.
It is. But you feel for a guy like John Reid, who has made a lot of contract decisions based on normal, situation normal, and all of a sudden we've got this disaster. And he's having to manage contracts where potentially lists are going to be reduced. I would hope that clubs actually get some sort of
compensation or some adjustment.
Some adjustment
in terms of in having to redo contracts.
Well,
I think a bit as well.
I wonder whether contract payouts won't count towards TPP, where they've been forced because of list reduction.
That would help us out brilliantly.
Well, the way they run things is anything is possible.
Yep, and it's a moving target. And look, it's been fascinating tonight. I have to thank a few people. I have to thank Law, the Essendon moderator, who provided us with those draft standings. She does excellent work. Get around it.
Oh, yes, that is brilliant. I use it every year leading into the draft, so I actually know what's going on. Yep,
it's fantastic. Look, I took a lot of stats from AFL Tables, Footy Wire, a bit of Draft Guru. Get around all those websites. They're amazing resources, and I thank the people behind putting those together for making those statistics available, because we're a bit hard pressed in the AFL with statistics. It's not like Major League Baseball or a lot of the American sports where you can get every stat known to man. The AFL like to keep that one close, and so any stats that are made available publicly are most appreciated. I have to thank everyone who's joined us on YouTube and Facebook, and also on Twitch. Thanks very much, guys, for joining us, and everyone who's chatted away. It's been a fantastic night just for watching people interact on Discord. It's been fantastic, and the other platforms. Really worthwhile. So thanks to everyone who supported us. If you want to actually support the cast with your dollars and cents, go to patreon.com/AFL CrowCast. This workbook that I've put together tonight will be made available to our patrons as a bit of a thank you. So that'll be posted up over the next 48 hours. And you can have a play around with the various stats and all the rest of it. Macca, Nikki, we got through the gremlins. We got through the blood. I've never had that problem with Discord in my life. And as soon as we go live, it was a nightmare. But I appreciate you both hanging in there and participating tonight.
We just need another, from Macca.
Yeah. It was actually more of a, fucking hell, it's gone again.
That was the first one. Then he moved on to the more PC, oh God.
That was good.
So no thanks to Discord for tonight. We love you normally, Discord, but not tonight.
Not tonight. Look, we appreciate all the thanks in Discord. Don't worry, it's a labour of love for us, so it's no problem at all. Macca, Nikki, it's time we fucked off.
2 hours. It's done.
Thanks, guys, for sticking with us. Play safe, and go Crows. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yep, night all.
Night all.